So let's start. Ooh, okay. So energy simply implies meaning, the ability to work, and in human body, uh, there are different form of energy prevailing. One is the chemical source, the chemical energy, electrical, the heat energy or the heat production, and the last one is the mechanical or the contractile form of energy that appears due to or that arises during the muscle contraction or muscular contraction. Okay, so but there are some pathways of energy flow through food in human body. So the in food it retains in the form of chemical energy, and through metabolism there is release of ATP. The body's energy currency is transferred to heat and heat losses, and also in the form losses in the form of chemical waste as carbon dioxide and water. So there are two processes in this energy release mechanism. One we say the aerobic mechanism. There is glycolysis, Krebs cycle, and energy transport, energy release, and also if the energy is not made through the aerobic cycle, then the aerobic cycle starts, and we say normally there is only two adenosine triphosphate are released. So it shows there is transfer of energy from chemical to working ATP energy. There is transfer of cycle. Okay, so it looks that we believe that this anaerobic cycle is not opposite to aerobic cycle, but it adds value to the aerobic cycle, because when the energy is not made in the through aerobic cycle, then the anaerobic system starts. Okay? If you are running and if you are playing football in the ground, then the energy released through aerobic cycle, the oxidative cycle, would not make the energy requirement. No? Then there is energy released in the muscular area, that we say anaerobic cycle. Okay, you know the compounds or these chemical waste is released during the anaerobic cycle. So these are the compounds only see I showed only for the aerobic cycle, but you know this release of alcohol and other compounds during the breakdown of glucose in anaerobic cycle. So त्यसैले कहिलेकाहीँ धेरै एक्सर्साइज गर्दा मस्कुलर पेन हुन्छ नि, द्याट्स रिलेटेड टु एनारोबिक एनर्जी रिलिज. ओके, जस्तो फुटबल खेलेर आएपछि सम पिपल दे फिल दे क्यानट स्ट्यान्ड वेल बिकज देयर मस्कुलर they feel the muscular pain, and that's related to the anaerobic deposition of alcohol and these other compounds in the muscle. Okay, then the electrical energy, they say that we realize for the nerve impulse in our body and the pace of the heart. These two functions are related to electrical energy, while that for the heat energy, it's to maintain the basal body heat. Okay, the metabolic body heat is we can pronounce for the heat energy, and the performance of work is associated with the production of heat. That means even when inactive, an adult male must lose heat at a rate of about 90 watts. Okay? That we say basal metabolism.
Excuse me, sir.
हजुर, muscular contraction हुन्छ नि हातको घुँडाको joint को. Simply we say this is related to mechanical energy. काम गर्ने जति काम गर्छौं हात खुट्टाले, this is all related to mechanical energy. Okay, so there are a very easy system to measure the energy, and we express in the kilocalorie, and the conversion factors to joule is 1 kilocalorie is equivalent to 4,186.8 joule, or 1 kilocalorie equals 4.1868 kilojoule. Okay, so then 1 kilojoule equals 0.23885 kilocalorie, and 1000 kilojoule equals 238.9 kilocalorie around. So the dietary energy, the dietary energy sources are proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. In 8 waters fuel value, or 8 waters physiological fuel value, the proteins yield 4 kilocalorie per gram, carbohydrates also 4, and fats 9 kilocalorie or 37 kilojoule. Okay? So we say in science these any physiological terms, 8 waters physiological fuel value for protein, carbohydrate, and fat. Okay. I used to write in the message box. Let us see. 8 water physiological fuel value. Okay. Let me paste in both groups. Sorry, this is not, this is 8 water, eh? Sorry, 8 water. Okay. It's the protein conversion system, like we say 8 waters physiological fuel value. That value is 4 kilocalorie per gram of carbohydrate and protein, and that for 9 kilocalorie per gram for fat. Okay? So the question may arise, why fat yields higher energy as compared to carbohydrate and protein? This is the questionable part in the physiological sciences. Do you know this? Why fat yields higher energy than carbohydrate and protein? Hello? One is fatty acid and glycerol. And glycerol tends to produce glucose in the energy chain, while fatty acids also yield energy. So due to these two components available in fats, the fat has higher energy content than others. It's simple logic, okay? So then let's go to the basal metabolism. It is the minimum energy required during rest, okay? The measured in terms of basal metabolic rate, and it is the minimum rate of energy expenditure per unit time by endothermic animals as rest. Okay, and it is also measured in the form of calorie, and about 60 to 70% of calories we burn every day is for the basal metabolic in the form of basal metabolism. So these functions are related to the running of vital functions, the breathing, blood circulation, the regulation of body temperature, cell growth, and the energy loss during sleeping. Okay, they are all the example of basal metabolism. So here is an important point that how BMR is affected by other factors. One factor is age, and increase for some year and decreases when people become aged. Okay, so this age has important aspect that affects the basal metabolic rate. At child stage and at old stage, the BMR is reduced, while during the growth stage, puberty stage, the requirement is very high. And although the sex also has a difference in BMR, then the requirement is 2 to 12% less in females. The difference is more marked in older groups. Okay, and for climate, the decrease is ongoing to the tropics, because in the tropics the intake is reduced. Okay, so when the food intake is reduced, then the BMR is also reduced. Then the fourth one is the race of people that also cause one of the minor cause that affects the basal metabolic rate. And the Chinese living in the United States have less BMR than American of the European origin. That means the Asian have very less BMR than the Europeans. Okay? So then the next thing is if there is 1 degree Fahrenheit rise in body temperature, there is 7% rise in the basic metabolic rate. That's in the humans. Okay. And there is also an important point, the food habit of people also affects the basic metabolic rate. And the vegetarians, they usually have very less BMR. That means 11% less BMR than the meat eaters, and falls after prolonged starvation. Okay, even for meat eaters, if they remain on long-term starvation, the BMR also reduced. And the prevailing thyroid, the function of thyroid, adrenaline, and noradrenaline hormone raises the basic metabolic rate. If some people are suffering from these hormonal imbalances, then basic metabolic rate also increases. Okay? So people suffering from too much thyroid, hyperthyroidism, okay, and they usually consume more than normal people. Then during sleeping, the basic metabolic rate is also increased. That's up by 10% than the normal rest stage. Then another factor is the fetal development, the fetal growth in women. That also increases the demand of BMR. Then the habit of people also indulge increase in BMR just to exercise. During exercise, we need more BMR than the sedentary work. And people who are a good friend of caffeine, nicotine, or other kind of regular drug users, they also need higher BMR. Okay, so due to the caffeine, nicotine, and benzodiazepine drugs, that impulse to higher basal metabolic rate. So there are some estimated calorie requirements based on age of people, and this data is for the American people indeed. And a child stage of 2 to 3 years age, for sedentary work, 1,000 kilocalories is needed, while for moderately active, it goes up to 1,400, and for active stage, that the range is similar. But for females of 4 to 8 children, and the energy requirement for sedentary work, that means at rest, the energy BMR requirement is 1,200 kilocalorie, while for moderately active work, it goes higher up to 1,600. And during work or some sports, if they are doing it may go up to 1,800 kilocalorie. So based on age, if you look to start of the age people, it reaches up to 2,200 and maximum, and for male up to during active age from 14 to 30, the requirement is very high. It goes, you need up to 2,400 kilocalorie. So in our age, we need 2,400 kilocalorie daily energy for basic metabolic rate. And for other active functions, it may go very high. If you join sport, the requirement may go up to 3,200 kilocalorie. Okay? This is for BMR, but for sport and for other things, during physical work, the requirement may also go up to 3,200. Okay? So then this is also for male, and it shows the requirement is, I told you it is very high, up to 3,200. And you look to the active age of people from 14 to 50, its maximum is 3,000, and minimum is 2,200 kilocalorie. And during start of age, that means 51 plus, the requirement is simply bit little. Okay? While for active stage of male children of 40 years of age, the requirement is maximum 2,000. The range may vary from 1,600 to 2,000 kilocalorie per day. Okay, so these are the normal guidelines. Okay, then effect of energy insufficiency on human health. This chapter I would like to link to global malnutrition problems. Okay, so the chapter is more reflected to next slide, and please go. Let us do one by one. We talk to global malnutrition, gastroenteritis, poor growth, maturation, and physical activities. Okay. So then, effects of energy insufficiency, they are simple to further to weakness, constipation, the cardiovascular defects, the heart palpitation, artery thalamati, fainting and depressions, and with the lean body mass, underweight, and alteration of normal menstrual cycle in females, and high mortality and somatic defects on children, and जस्तो सुस्त मनस्थिति भन्छ नि, and then metabolic diseases and disorders, example mental retardation, neurological impairments, they are mostly related to energy insufficiency. So this energy source carbohydrate, I don't discuss it much here, and the normal carbohydrate intake should provide up to 65% of the total calories required for normal man or woman. Okay, so the source, and we didn't need to describe mass. And protein, the healthy adults should get 10 to 35% of calories from protein. Okay, these are the normal requirements. And for fat, and fat is not required, but the fatty acids are required, right? So which fatty acids are required, and we say essential fatty acids. This we will discuss in the metabolism chapter, not here. And the resources, right? And it is also important for alcohol users. And the alcohol, the conversion of energy or utilization of energy from alcohol is inefficient in human body, but in fact, alcohol gives 7 calories of energy per gram of alcohol consumed. Okay, so this is all about the energy term, and it's not difficult. Just you have to mention the age limit, the kind of factors affecting BMR. And every year I'm asking this question to undergraduates, and this is almost open question for everyone. Okay, so let us do another. Let us continue to another lecture to this malnutrition. And let's switch to this part. Okay. Okay. Let's switch to the major nutritional problems and magnitude, causes, symptoms, and the remedial measures for the malnutrition. Mostly we talk the malnutrition here. So the major health and nutrition problem in our country and also in surrounding developing the transition economic world is the malnutrition, and not only the important cause of childhood morbidity and mortality, but leads to permanent impairment of physical and mental growth. So in Nepal, we believe around 40% of children are stunting. Okay, so the vicious cycle of malnutrition says once weight loss, there is immunity is lost, and there is mucosal damage, and there is the incidence of disease, and over the duration of severity, then there is loss of appetite, nutrient losses, malabsorption, and altered metabolism due to inadequate dietary intake. Okay, this is the pathway how disease incidents occur in human body due to the inadequate dietary intake. We say normally the vicious cycle circle infection contributing to malnutrition and infection. Okay. So the other contributory factors for malnutrition are the poor environmental condition, the family size, the maternal health, the failure of lactation or the early this colostrum feeding, then premature termination of breastfeeding, then adverse cultural practices relating to child rearing and weaning. Right? In Nepal, in some communities, the children are given alcohols in instead the real food. Okay, this might be some damaging effect to his brain. Okay, then there are some, and if one generation of people is malnourished, and the cycle goes to another generation too, and this cycle shows, and if the nutritional status of pregnant woman is wrong, then the neonatal and the infant nutrition status is also becomes poor, and that also affects the growth stage of the newborn girl's status, and the newborn girl status leads to even under malnourished condition to her puberty stage. So the whole generation would be malnourished. Okay, the concept says if one generation is malnourished, and partly its coming generations would also be malnourished. Okay, so this is very very dangerous cycle generative. So sorry, this cycle is very dangerous to explain. Okay, as a बाउ आमाको कमजोरी छ भने बच्चा बच्ची पनि देखिन्छ. Okay, that's genetic, because there is gene environment, gene के भन्छ जीवा ई interaction for everything. Okay, so then the concept is close to the protein energy malnutrition. There are some signs that defines marasmus and kwashiorkor. We say clinical signs, just so muscular wasting. This is obvious in marasmus, while in kwashiorkor sometimes hidden by edema and fat. Okay, so fat wasting, it appears. There is loss of fat in marasmus, and fat often retained but not formed in kwashiorkor. Okay. Then odema, this means deposition of water, the water bulk in the skin and muscle that doesn't appear in marasmus, but it may present in kwashiorkor. Okay, you could understand the difference between these energy and protein malnutrition. Okay, so do you know which one is the energy malnutrition or protein malnutrition? Marasmus के हो? Energy malnutrition हो कि protein malnutrition हो? If you don't like to answer, please know yourself. Right? So if you know this, then sometimes both effect may appear in the children's body. That's we say this marasmic kwashiorkor. Right? Several loss of subcutaneous fat that tends to, right? Then there is no loss of fat, but it is not formed. Right? Sometimes here, okay, then you have to identify marasmus is protein malnutrient condition, kwashiorkor is energy malnutrient condition. Okay, and there are some other physiological changes associated with these two diseases are when they are combined. Right? Protein malnutrition marasmus, energy malnutrition kwashiorkor. Sometimes we say the marasmic kwashiorkor. Okay, then there are some biochemical revealings to marasmus and kwashiorkor. You can say urinary urea per gram creatine, if it is normal or decreased, this we say marasmus, and when it is low, then it is kwashiorkor. Then hydroxyproline creatine ratio, this condition is low for both diseases. While this plasma to amino acid ratio, that is normal to marasmus, blood amino acid ratio, while this is elevated in the kwashiorkor. So from these data, you can identify which is protein malnutrition and which is energy malnutrition. Okay. So the next is the classification of protein energy malnutrition, and we use this Gomez classification we use to explain this protein energy malnutrition, and based on weight retardation, the child weight is compared to normal child of the same age. The formula for this Gomez classification employed is weight for age and percent equals the weight of child divided by weight of normal child of the same age multiplied by 100. And if the ratio comes in between 90 to 100, this is the normal body condition for the children. And while for the ratio coming between 75 to 89, it is, we say, this first degree malnutrition. And if it is in between 60 to 75, we say second degree malnutrition. And under 60, that is regarded as the third degree malnutrition, or the condition is severe. Okay. To the next, quasi-worker. Okay. Then it, sorry, I might say ulto one. So the quasi-worker is related to insufficient protein. Okay. So it occurs under 5 years of age of children, and it is the most problematic condition in prevailing developing countries of Asia and Africa, South America, and the Middle East also. Yemen. Okay. Middle East, Yemen is the best example of this quasi-worker. Asia, we know, in many African territories, they have been suffering from the quasi-worker. Okay. Then control, please provide some these protein-rich food, skim milk powder, legumes, fish meal, fish products to children. Okay, then marasmus, it is simply the atrophy of muscle and subcutaneous fat and combined with diarrhea. This is marasmus. I may will to Manisula. Then physical stunting, mental and emotional impairment, they are further associated with marasmic children. And okay, this condition is also related to marasmus, fretful and apathetic, and body temperature may be subnormal because of absence of insulation provided by the subcutaneous fat. बच्चाको चाहिँ body temperature घट्ने condition चाहिँ this is marasmus. Okay. So then the etiology of marasmus is chronic body temperature घट्ने, lack of both protein and calories, and common in infants from 6 to 18 months of age, and occurs where socioeconomic setting is poor of the Middle East countries, some of the Middle East countries, so the Middle Asia, then Asia, and in African categories. The control measure is same to that of the quasi-worker. People should be provided with carbohydrate and fat in these diets. Then anemia, we know this is due to the deficiency of iron, folic acid, and vitamin B12. And the anemic in anemic condition, there is lack of hydrochloric acid secretion in the stomach. Right? And without hydrochloric acid, people cannot digest the food. And there is anorexia, constipation, and reduction of hemoglobin level in the blood. So if there is dietary lack of folic acid, then it may appear, and together with vitamin B12, anemia could appear. Okay? So enrichment of food with iron, inclusion of green vegetables and nutritional education could be the controlling factors for nutritional anemia. So this is eye disease, or the blindness is also related to xerophthalmia, and there is reduction of corneal size. Okay, wrinkling of conjunctiva, swelling and redness of eyelids, pain and light sensitivity. They are all xerophthalmia. Okay, night blindness is the acute stage of xerophthalmia. Okay, then xerophthalmia might be due to the lack of vitamin A, and the vitamin A in this food may be fat source from animals, could be ideal. Okay, then vitamin A prophylaxis schedule. This is from the Public Health Department of the government, and they offer vitamin A scheduling to children age group and for women bearing the children. Okay, pregnant women. So then next, the endemic goiter, this is lack of the thyroid gland is greatly enlarged in the endemic goiter due to poor availability of iodine as a mineral. Okay, so the goiterogenic substances are the people who are taking for a long time without treatment or without cooking the cabbage or from the plants from the crucifer family that may enlarge the goiter. And people who eat raw soybeans, peanuts, turnips, mostly the crucifers, okay? Crucifers, peanuts, and soybeans, who are for people eating raw, the condition of endemic goiter may arise, and chronic infection increases, that depresses the iodine intake. यो condition हो endemic goiter, गाँड आउने. And beriberi, this is the deficiency of thiamine disease is called the beriberi, and there is a gradual loss of body tissue in the body. There are two types of beriberi. In fact, one is the dry and another is wet. And wet beriberi, the swelling of limbs occurs. And in dry beriberi, there is gradual loss of body tissue. Then former other symptoms associated with this is paralysis, vomiting, and constipation. And in children, it may appear at the first year of the life. And खास गरी हात खुट्टाहरु सुन्निनेहरु चाहिँ त्यो चाहिँ वेट बेरी है बेसरी दुब्लाउने चाहिँ this is sukenas, is a dry beriberi. Okay, the third one is piragla. We say 3D disease. Okay, we say diarrhea, dermatitis, and dementia. They are the three big D's of pellagra, and it's due to the deficiency of niacin. And the controlled diet rich in niacin and tryptophan that may prevent the pellagra. For tryptophan, you have to eat leguminous food. For niacin, you have to eat green vegetables. Okay, then fluorosis and dental fluorosis is a major problem in our thoracicities, and because excess fluoride ingested in tooth calcification, and it mortals the dental enamel, and sometimes it may also result in loss of the tooth and its shining appearance. So कहिलेकाहीँ दाँतमा केही चीजहरु थपिएको जस्तो हुने condition हो यो चाहिँ dental fluorosis भनेको. And there is another one is the skeletal fluorosis. Sometimes daily intake of 3 to 6 milligram of per liter of water of then it may arise also these dental fluorosis, skin fluorosis. Then heavy fluoride deposition in skeleton and permanent disability. Okay, fluorine there are two diseases may appear. One is dental fluorosis. दाँतमा चाहिँ थिक प्लेक बन्दै जाने है दाँतको शाइनिङ हराउँदै जाने, and this is skin allergy. Okay, so and skin allergy may also lead to permanent disability in people. Then third one is letharism. You know this Lathyrus sativus that contains beta oxalyl aminoalanine. This is not poison. Containing food is banned even to feed raw to animals. तिम्रो Lathyrus sativa खेसरी भन्छ, सानो चना जस्तो अथवा एकदम मिनी चना जस्तो हुन्छ, यो केराउ जस्तो चना हैन, केरा जस्तो चना अलि हरियो अथवा सेतो पहेँलो टाइपको हुन्छ. खेसरी चाहिँ a bit brown in color. It looks like a brother of pea, garden pea. So it contains this not poison called beta oxalyl aminoalanine, and that causes the not poison or osteolathyrism. And even it may appear in adult people. So there are three stages of this letharism toxicity. One is the latent stage. People looks like healthy but becomes very weak. And no sick stage. Patient walks short, jerky steps without stick. Paralysis हुन्छ. त्यसपछि paralysis भए पनि एउटा हिँड्न सक्ने latent stage condition. Disease त हो तर त्यो latent stage त्यति सिक भइसकेको हुँदैन. अर्को लौरो टेकेर हिँड्न नसक्ने stage. We say one stick disease, and one sticks and walks cross gait with tendency to walk on two. खुट्टाले हिँड्न सक्ने तर औँलाले टेक्न पर्ने condition. Muscular stiffness. And third one is twisting stage. That means more severe excessive blending of knee and cross legs. Condition. And fourth one is crawler leg. That means our man joint, then he can move only with crawling the legs. There are the normal steps that is related the growth stages of the latharism toxicity. So this crop has been banned in many countries, also in India and Nepal, but the removal of toxin by steeping, soaking in water for 2 hours, and paraboiling, soaking in lime water and boil methods would be given to animals only, not for people. This food is totally banned to eat, to consume by people. Okay. So that's much for today. Next day we'll discuss about these nutritional interventions in Nepal. Then we'll start the other chapters. ठीक छ? Letharism very there are some particular points associated with the terminologies. Dry very, wet very, suginas fuginas wet very fuginas potasunine. There are some other terminologies to fluorine toxicity, or the dental caries. So next class, I think we can take to nutritional epidemiology in Nepal. Then we'll start the scientific classes, the real nutrition and metabolic diseases. Aaj यति गरौँ.